Okay, so welcome back in our data pre-processing session. We have already discussed about data quality assessment. The next thing we are going to discuss here is feature engineering. It is something that where we are combining the features to generate something new, and that is a kind of different types of feature engineering can be possible. The one thing that we are going to discuss here, it's called polynomial feature. So creating polynomial feature is one kind of feature engineering. It's a very simple and common way. Okay, it adds complexity to the numeric input data by combining features. Okay, that means suppose there are some columns c1, c2 and c3. Okay, better say features f1, f2 and f3. So instead of connecting them with other features in a linear fashion, I can combine them, like suppose f1 and f2, multiplication of f1 and f2, or multiplication of f1, f2, f3. So this way, when combining these features, if I generate a new set of features where there is a non-linear relationship. So you know already what is a feature and what is a target. So if you remember our Titanic data set, we have the details of the passengers, and we had one column or feature called the survived, whether the passenger survived or not. So the other columns we can term them as the feature, and survived column we can term them as the target. So in the exploratory data analysis part, we try to do like with the other features, we try to connect those with the target column, that is the survived column, that on which features this is dependent, that whether the passenger survived or not. So that was something linear combination, right? So I tried that whether the class of the passenger determines whether the passenger survived or not, or the age, or whether the passenger had the parents with them, etc. So that is kind of a linear relationship, and non-linear relationship means when we are combining the numerical features. Okay, so then what I can do, maybe that suppose three features, so f1 into f2 into f3. So the three values in these three features, so if I multiply, then it creates some new value, right? So then I can try to find some relationship with f1, f2, f3 to the target. Okay, so then when I am trying to do this non-linear relationship, then this polynomial feature creation will come into picture. And very importantly, we should handle the missing values first, because you understand that if there is some null value and we are trying to multiply, then it may create some error. Okay, then this scikit-learn library provides a polynomial features class which help us to do the creation of polynomial features. So I will go to Jupyter notebook now. Okay, so I am in the data pre-processing script. Okay, so far I have done data quality assessment, so now it is feature engineering. So here I have imported from the sklearn library this polynomial features, and for this polynomial features, the inputs, you can see that I have created this poly from this polynomial features and calling it with the these arguments: degree equal to 3, interaction only equal to true. What that does mean, that degree equal to 3 means I'm doing it with the combination of 3 features, and interaction only true means that when you are generating the combination of different columns or features, suppose f1 and f2 and f3, so what are the all multiplication possible? It can be f1 square, f1 cube, f2 square, f2 cube, or f1, f2, f2, f3, f1, f2, f3. So interaction only means I need only those features where there is a combination of 2 or more features. Okay, only those multiplication will only be taken here. Okay, so polynomials 1 equal to pd dot data frame. So whatever polynomial 1 is created, I am directly creating a data frame for that. So here I have called this, for this poly I have called this feed transform method with ls2. Okay, what is ls2? So I will add one column here. So let us see what is ls2. So this is ls2. So in the earlier part of the session I have already handled the null value, so now it is being populated with the mean of the data. So one thing I would like to tell you, that when you are doing these polynomial features, it is better to fill the null values with the mean or median instead of doing it with some zero value, okay, because you understand that multiplication with 0 will give you 0, so you may lose some important thing about that. Okay, so here I have called for ls2. So you know that ls2 has these 3 columns, and here I have taken this all these are the 8 combination of values are generated, and I am taking this last 4. Okay, so let us first execute this. Okay, so polynomials 1 is already created, so I will here, let me print this. Okay, so if I execute this, so you can see this p1, p2, p3, p4, it is actually the combination. It is p1 means p1, p2, p3 means those are the means it is something like age into total votes into postal votes into age, and age into total votes into postal votes. Okay, these 4 things we have only taken, not the other ones. Okay, so that way this is generated. Okay, fine. So for all these 2263 records, these 4 columns are generated. Then I have done this for another data set, that is ls3. Okay, so let us see what was there in ls3. Okay, so ls3 dot head. So if you execute, so you can see that there are only 2 columns. So when you have 2 columns, then it will generate this combination of 2 columns, means if it is f1 and f2, then it can be f1 into 1, f2 into 2, f1, f2, all these possible values. So I have taken all these 4. So let us execute this. I will advise you that you go to the manuals of these library functions, because there are a lot of features for each of the functionality, and it is difficult to explain each and every functionality. So whatever we are discussing, suppose we are discussing on polynomial features, so there are a lot of documentation for each of the library of Python, so you can go and check what is polynomial features and what is the meaning of each of the arguments here, so you will be more clear. So we are handling a specific example maybe, but there are other possibilities and the explanation about it, so I will recommend that you go there and you check the documentation every time. Okay, so you will be more clear on what are the possibilities. Okay, so that statement is executed. So let us execute polynomials 2. So you can see that these are the values generated. So p1 is actually 1, you can say, as in p2 it is the combination of this one feature, means the f1 and f2 and f1 f2, these are the possibilities. Okay, it all depend on the number of columns and the degree we mention. Fine. Okay, so after that what I am doing, I am creating a new data frame object ls4, where I am using the concat function of the data frame, and here I have this ls2 and this indicator and this polynomials 1. Okay, so if you remember in the earlier session we had generated indicators. So let us execute. So if you execute ls4.head, now you can see ls2 means it was age and total votes and postal votes. Then in indicator we had only one column M1, and in polynomials one we have 4 columns. So if you are generating different data frames for different purposes, then as and when required you can just concatenate them and then process further. Okay, so that is how we have used the polynomial features. Now we will go back to our presentation. Okay, the next thing is feature aggregation. It is another type of pre-processing of data. Here we are actually combining two or more arguments in a single argument. So it's like, suppose you have some data about, suppose the birthday of a person. So maybe there are 3 columns, one is the day, one is the month, and one is the year. So for every person 3 columns are mentioned. So instead of that, what I can do, I can create a data type column, right? And in that part, for in a single column I can keep the day and month and the year, like that. So it's possible that I can generate a new column which is a combination of multiple columns, and any of the information is not lost, right? So this is the aggregation of features. So if it is applicable in our data set, we should always look for this, because it actually has many advantages. First of all, data reduction. It reduces the number of objects or attributes. Okay, so as you understand from the example, that if there are 3 columns, instead of maintaining 3 columns, I will maintain only 1 column. Okay, then change of scale, providing high level view of data from low level view. Means suppose you have some information about the different cities of a state, okay, for a person. So instead of all these cities, maybe I'm not interested in the city at all, maybe my processing is based on only the state or the country. So instead of having the city information for every person, I can just change the scale, means scale up the data to the next level, that is maybe for different cities mentioned, I can just have the state name or the country name. Okay, so I can change the scale so that I will have the high level view of data. Maybe sometimes I don't have anything to do with the low level data, maybe the the address, the locality of a person, but I am only interested from which country the person has came. So instead of maintaining all these address details, only what I can do, I can create a new column and I can keep just the country name of that person. So data will be simple and the scale will be changed. Then the another point is the data becomes stable. Aggregated data is having less variability. You understand that if there are 100 people from India and they have different address values, right? The house number, the locality, the city, the state, the region, many things. But instead of maintaining a huge lengthy data, instead of that I can just mention the name of the country, India. So it is having less variability and it becomes more stable and more easy to process. Fine. Next is feature sampling. Okay, so sampling means so when I get some data, it is called the population. So population means is the entire data set, and sometimes the data set can be huge, it can have crores and crores of data, and when I'm really trying to get some outcome, some prediction from the data set, then it can be very difficult to handle such a huge data set, right? So instead of that, I can have some samples from the data. So instead of doing all my experiments on the entire data set, what I can do, I can take some meaningful sample from the data, so that I don't have to handle that huge data set, but I can get most of the characteristics at least from the data set. Because you understand that if it is a huge data set, sometimes it is nearly impossible to process. Okay, so selection of a subset of data from the entire population, that is called the sampling. Okay, and then there are different techniques of sampling. Of course, you understand that if I take the sampling in a wrong way, then I may not be able to do the correct processing of the data set if something important is left. So I have to do the sampling in such a way that I should cover the entire picture of the population. Okay, So there are broadly 3 ways of sampling. These are called simple random sampling, stratified sampling, and progressive sampling. So what is simple random sampling? Here equal probability of selecting an item. So I can just select one item here, okay, from the entire population, and it can be of 2 types. One is called with replacement and another is without replacement. With replacement means selected item is not removed from population. What does that mean? That I just pick one sample from the population, then when I'm coming, because it's a random sampling, so it may be possible that I will pick the same sample again and again. It's possible. But this in the second way, where whenever I am selecting an item from the population, then it is just removed from the population, so there is no chance of getting the same sample again and again, right? So it actually increases the possibility of a better sample creation. Then comes the stratified sampling. Here random samples are selected from splitted partitions. So instead of selecting the samples from the entire data set, what I can do, I can have some partitions already created based on some criteria, then I can check some samples. Suppose in this current situation there are the COVID patients data for the entire country, so maybe we have to do some processing on the data. So instead of selecting random samples from the entire data set, what we can do, maybe we can split the data set based on the different states of the country, and then we can select samples from the different states. So that is the stratified sampling. And then comes the progressive sampling. It starts with small sample and size gradually increases. It is like you start suppose with some 10 records you start processing, and as and when required you are just taking data from the population, so that your processing goes in the correct way. So as and when required you are taking samples from the entire population. Okay, so these are the some methodologies. So we have to only remember that whenever we are doing sampling, we have to ensure that the entire picture or the entire characteristic of the population should not be lost. Okay, the next thing is discretization and binarization. So it is something that now we have to handle our continuous data. Okay, so you know already that we have different types of data, right? We can have some discrete data, we have some continuous data. Continuous data means suppose the age of the person, okay, is continuous, right? So it can be in years and months and days, so it can continue in any set of values. Okay, so it's a large set of values. So instead of maintaining everyone data, what I can do, that I want the picture for the characteristics when the age range is between 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, like that. So instead of, if you remember, we had generated some histograms for our continuous data, right? And we had created some beans. So it is also kind of a same thing. So instead of maintaining the data for all the value ranges for the continuous data set, what we can do, we can create some beans. Maybe I can have some 5 age groups or 8 age groups, and based on that okay, if this person falls in this particular age group, then that is the feature, like that. So when I am converting continuous attribute into ordinal attribute, okay, so maybe I am giving the name as, okay, when the age group is from 0 to 10, it is the 1 group, then age 10 to 20 another group, 20 to 30 another group, 30 to 40 another group, like that. So a large set of values converted into small set of values. You understand that age from 0 to 80 or 0 to 90, so all possible 90 values, maybe I can keep it in 9 beans or 9 buckets. So instead of maintaining 90 values, I can only maintain 9 values. So here large set of values are converted to small set of values, then it is actually useful for classification algorithms. What are those? That I will come gradually. Okay, that method is called the discretization. Then comes the binarization. What is binarization? Continuous or categorical attributes converted to binary attributes. You can say it is only a special type of discretization. So in discretization we told that for the entire age group I can divide it into 10 groups, right? 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, like that. So instead of doing that, if I can do that, okay, age less than 50, it's one group, age greater than 50, it's another group. So the entire age group is divided into two parts, maybe as binarization I'm telling. So maybe from age 0 to 50 it is 0, the value will be 0, and when it is from 50 to 100 is value 1. So 0 and 1, only 2. So you can say binarization means it's a special type of discretization where we are putting these continuous or categorical attributes in only two groups. Okay, it's useful for association analysis. What is that? That will come later. So but first let us have some hands-on how to do discretization and binarization. Okay, so let us go back to our script. Okay, so we have done this feature engineering. I will go to discretization and binarization. So here I am going to input this k-bin discretizer. Okay, what it is doing, you can see that n bins equal to 6, as I told you that here encoding, how to do the encoding. Okay, and then the strategy. These are the some of the arguments that you can mention here, that how you are going to do the encoding. We'll come to that at a later point of time. And then I have created this discrete, which is a feed transform method. I am calling on ls5. Okay, so what is ls5? So first of all I have to generate the ls5. Okay, okay, so I can do it ls1 as well, not a problem. Okay, so here I have done, in this script I have done with first the feature encoding. So let us have the discussion on feature encoding also, and then we will come to that.